Playing games during CPUSA conferences, shaking my head. I didn't even get an invite today. I did not get the invite, otherwise I probably would have gone. Sorry, Crack Mama James. If somebody, tell someone to text me the invite and I'll join right now. But until then, I'm playing game. Because I've had a long week. What's up, Jacob? Plus, I was working on, this morning, organizing a CPUSA affiliate club. Something is going on with my gaming YouTube channel where it's not, the streams aren't working. I can't get it to stream to our YouTube channel. So that's kind of weird. I don't know what I need to do to fix that, but I'll take a look at it. Either way, I'll just re-upload this. Yeah. Is there actually a CPUSA conference today? Because usually they shoot me an invite, but perhaps I've angered them. What's up, Jacob? I think I already said that. I don't even know where my phone is. Okay. So I imagine I should just push this thing. Here we go. Woo! This is gonna be complicated, isn't it? Go right. Take me right. How do I go right? Whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. This is gonna be mighty confusing, everyone. Supposed to do this. All right. Got another puzzle episode. Another episode where I'm gonna have to flex my brain muscles. I don't know if that was right. How do I get back out here? I had to push this back out. Alright, yeah, now I'm riding it again. Alright, we gotta take the first intersection right. This upcoming one here. There we go, we got it. Follow the path down to the end. Going straight, right? Woo, here we go. This is like, kind of like a water slide, like a virtual water slide. And that's funny that CPUSA was having their conference today too, because I saw the Free School was doing their thing. I'm like, man, instead of doing a gaming stream, I should probably join the Free School. But, you know, I need rest too. To take the Bevel sphere and insert it into the pedestal, but there already is. There's already a Bevel sphere here, so what are you guys talking about? Alright, right it back up to the previous area. Alright. This is definitely the most confusing of all of the cloister of trials so far. I'm doing good, comrade. I've recently made it to section 4 of chapter 3, the history of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, Bolshevik short course. Oh, awesome. What do you think of it, Jacob? Isn't it interesting that the Bolsheviks had those short courses, or there's also like the Soviet manuals that they had for teaching Marxism in schools. The bourgeois fake Marxists that Gabriel Rockhill calls out in his work often look at the Soviet manuals and just dismiss them as mechanistic, as simplistic, as, you know, these Soviets didn't actually understand true Marxism the way that we, the enlightened Western philosophers, understand what real Marxism is. But then you actually read the manuals and you find out they're not mechanistic at all. They're actually quite brilliant. Obviously, they simplify things to teach it to beginners, but to say that you could just dismiss the whole thing as simplistic and stupid is just so arrogant and wrong. One sphere from the pedestal and insert it into the slot. So this. Is this what they want me to do? Seems right. Ride the pedestal all the way back north to the starting point. Okay. Yeah, I'm cheating. I'm using a walkthrough. You guys don't want to see me mess around with these puzzles all day. Okay, that wouldn't make very entertaining content. Dang it, come on. Why is this so hard to do? Why is this a thing? Why can he not push the pedestal? It's so annoying. Does it need to have the sphere on it to be pushed? It must. Alright. Okay, so we have to take that sphere that was down at the bottom and put it into the other side of the pedestal. I see, okay. I see what's going on here. My brain is getting bigger from all these puzzles. Down we go. Whee! Yep, send me straight, boys. Send me down to the bottom. Glub, 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 glub. Good afternoon, everyone. Hello, Popers. Hello, Jake Mossy. Welcome to the Final Fantasy stream, where we learn about Marxism and gaming and give a Marxist critique of Final Fantasy. Man, yesterday's stream thumbnail made you guys look like characters from Breaking Bad. That's awesome. What do people think of those? Do you guys like the AI thumbnails? I really like them. I feel like it's an improvement. I feel like it adds a little bit of artistic flair to all of our thumbnails. And they're super, super easy for me to make. Like, obviously, I'm just putting pictures of me, Carlos, and Noah into an app. And then it's pumping out, like, hundreds of AI photos. Like, the AI technology is incredible. And I think, why not take advantage of that? Like I said, if technology is going to make it easier for a small, viewer-funded outlet like Midwestern Marks to do what we do and to increase our production value, you know, why would we not seize that opportunity? So, happy weekend, Eddie. Happy weekend, Cade Grenade. Get some time off from FedEx. Let's see here. I'm going to stop here just to chill and figure out what I need to do next. Breaking Bad is the only thing the American abusive healthcare system generated. Yes, the only thing the abusive healthcare system. True. If Breaking Bad took place in Canada, have you guys seen that meme? Breaking Bad if it was in Canada. You're diagnosed with cancer, Mr. White. Okay, I guess I'll do chemo. The end. But in America, when chemo costs millions of dollars, when only the rich have access to chemotherapy and cancer treatment, you need to quit your job as a teacher and start selling meth to survive. I think the AI thumbnails are an improvement. Okay, good. Glad to hear it. Love that feedback. Thank you. Jacob, I'm thoroughly enjoying it, and I'm actually learning a lot. Like how it was the Mensheviks that somewhat planned to form the split in the party. Absolutely. And there are many people today who resemble the Mensheviks in their actions. You know, many people in the leftist movement today who are basically just being Mensheviks but don't realize it because they've never read about the history of the Soviet Union and the party. But that's why it's important to read about what the Mensheviks got wrong and what the Bolsheviks got right, or vice versa. But the Bolsheviks had the correct line for the most part throughout the entire revolutionary and pre-revolutionary period. Okay. Take one sphere from the pedestal and insert it into the slot. Okay, we were supposed to go to the other side here. Gotta insert one of these spheres into the slot to our right. I'm gonna have to ride this thing. Oh, I could have turned around there. Oh well. Yeah, and the Mensheviks were great revolutionaries until things popped off. Shoot, this is... How do I get it to take me the other direction? Yeah, spin me around. Now send me left. There we go. Just had to time it. Just had to time it. Alright, so now we take one of these. And put it in here. We're gonna take Bikini Bottom and we're gonna push it over here. One of my favorite SpongeBob lines. When the giant worm is gonna attack Bikini Bottom, and Patrick or whoever else is like, why don't we take Bikini Bottom and push it over here? That might end up being what they actually do in the episode too, pushing Bikini Bottom. Starting point. Go left at the second. Okay. Take the sphere here and insert it into the pedestal. Can do. Insert sphere. Back to the starting point we go. This is definitely an interesting cloister of trials, isn't it? They got all fancy with the puzzles. Alright, back at the starting point. Ignore that the first intersection. Head right to get to the lower area. Alright. Let's go to the lower area. Woo! Take a left turn at the glyph. Alright. Did I get it? Shoot. I didn't take the right turn, dang it. That's a right turn, not a left turn. Now where am I? Now we're lost. Oh, I'm just right back at the start. Okay, that's not so bad. We're actually learning a lot. Oh, sorry, dude, I've been downloading all yearbooks from the Soviet Union I could find, have the information and data year by year of the USSR. They were released after the collapse, and of course they're all in Russian and are only scans because no one is interested in spreading this kind of data in English. Huh. Fascinating, fascinating stuff. Do you speak Russian? I mean, that would be quite the task to translate those. That's part of the reason a lot of scholars just deflect to myths about the Soviet Union, is because a lot of scholars haven't spent time digging in the Soviet archives or digging into Soviet literature that's only out in Russian or translating it. One of the few who has is Grover Furr. And that's why Grover Furr is so big on defending Stalin, because he spent so much time in the Soviet archives. He sees how much of the garbage piled on Stalin's grave by the capitalist propagandists is just that. It's garbage. It's lies. Why do we take the rest of America and put them in the 1%? Sacha Baron Cohen while trying to prank Bernie Sanders. One of the funniest moments in political history. I speak a bit, but my fiance is Russian. My mother-in-law told me about the yearbooks. Oh, fascinating. Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, teach yourself Russian and translate those for me. Real quick. Yeah. If anyone doesn't know what Jacob's talking about, it's from Sacha Baron Cohen's TV show where he was pranking. He pulled off so many amazing pranks. Oh, gosh dang it. He pulled off so many amazing pranks in that show. But one of the funniest was when he tried to prank Bernie Sanders. And he was like, why don't we take the 1% and put them in, or why don't we take the rest of society and put them in the 1%? And Bernie's like, that's not how percentages work. Then it wouldn't be... Shoot, I did it again. Dang it. Like, then it wouldn't be a percentage anymore. And Sacha Baron Cohen just keeps going with it. Like, yeah, but why don't we put the rest of the country into the 1%? Bernie's just like, what the hell are you talking about? But there's even funnier episodes on that show. One of my favorite is when he goes to this small rural town and tells him that they're going to build the world's largest mosque. And the rural residents are like, no, it's evil. It reminded me very much of what would happen if you tried to build a mosque in the town where I'm from. And then there's a better one where he gets... Oops, I don't know what direction I want to go here. Where he gets Republicans to say that they want to arm 5th graders. Turn them into 5th grenaders. Did I go the right way here? There's a pedestal right back south of the starting point. Take a left turn at the first intersection. At the first intersection, head right to the lower area. Take a left turn at the glyph here. Ignore the first and second. Go right to the third. Oh, okay. I went to the right intersection on accident. Let's go. That is great. It's rare that you do something by accident in this game and it works out, but here we are. Push the pedestal back on track, ride it south to the starting point, okay. I don't even see where I am right now. Where am I? I'm just trying to get back to the starting point. I need to go right here. No, this is where I just was. Okay. So I need to go... here. This is a confusing puzzle, everybody. No, that's not what I wanted to do. Okay. Take me back to the top. Please. Here we go. Back to the top. Taking it to the top. Okay. The starting point. Now I gotta go to the second intersection. Take the glyph sphere and put it in the pedestal. Okay. Can do. So I could have just turned right back there. Oh well. And go right at the second. Okay. Gotta go right. Righting. Right-a-roo. This is strengthening my brain so I can read more theory. Dang it. Said Eddie as he went the wrong way. Like an idiot. Like a fool. Go right at the thing. Okay. Turn me around. Right, left, right, left, right, left. Alright, I just gotta say it out loud to myself like a ding dong. Ride the pedestal. Right, no, for sure. Take the glyph sphere and put it into the pedestal. Alright, here's a glyph sphere. Wait, that's not a glyph sphere, that's a Bevel sphere. That's not good. Maybe it meant the starting point of the second area. I just don't want to mess anything up here. It must have meant the starting point of the second area, not the starting point of the top area. Okay. This is definitely the most difficult puzzle so far. I remember this annoying the crap out of me as a kid. Even with the walkthrough, it's pretty tough. At least for me. Down, left, down, left. Alright, now we're at the starting point of this. Dang it, that's not what I wanted. No. Does anyone ever get frustrated watching me do these? It's like, you idiot. I'll read the chat in a second. Sorry, I've been too focused to read the chat right now. Trying to get this figured out. Down, up, left, right. Keep sending me down. Down the water slide. Well, this ain't right. Oops. Dang it, I did it again. On a road... Oh, let me read some of these super chats, or chats right here. Happy weekend, Eddie, from Spain. Oh, that's cool. Shout out to all the Spanish comrades. Thank you for the time you devote to the communicative trench in this war. When I'm tired after reading books that teach me about how the world works, I read about history and philosophy. I can continue learning with you guys in different entertaining ways. You inspire others and make this a better world, but I'm sorry for you spending so much time of your time on this duty. Anyways, you seem to enjoy it. Well, thank you so much. What a nice message and an encouraging message. I do enjoy it for sure, and we try and do things like this, the gaming stream, to make it more fun for us. But yeah, I mean, it's more than worth it. I always knew there was something wrong with the world and the way that we structure our society. So, you know, the more I learned about capitalism, the more I felt like it was my duty to fight against it, or fight to sublate it. So, appreciate you for saying that, and we promise we'll keep going. On a road trip and just picked up my ticket for a toll booth. Love having to pay even more to drive in the freest nation on earth. Yep. They need it for education, though. That's what they always say, to make you feel better about the tolls. It's funding our education system. Like, why don't we tax the ultra-wealthy people and have them pay for it, then? Did you hear about the U.S. soldier who defected to North Korea? I did. That's pretty interesting. One of my buddies made a good point, like, you know, the DPRK is under sanctions, so it basically just gives them another mouth to feed. If you want to look at it super pessimistically, but it's still interesting, and I wonder what his reasoning was, you know. Oh. Gotta figure out where I'm going here. I think I was supposed to take the first intersection. Oops. Nope, I wasn't. Starting point, ignore the first intersection, go right at the second. Okay. Well, we can still do that. Hopefully I'm going the right way here. Yup. Alright, now there should be a glyph sphere here. And if there's not, I'm going to cry. Please be a glyph sphere. Yay! Yay! Put it in the pedestal. Alright, back north. Now I gotta go to the third intersection again. I don't need to go north, I can just go here. Oops. And I fell off. One, two. Alright, nailed it. Nailed it. Alright, now take the glyph sphere. Insert it into the slot. Alright, now we got a destruction sphere, which is what you use to get the secret things in this game in the Cloister of Trials. Push the pedestal, ride it back north to the starting point, okay. Ignore the first. Now we gotta go right at the second intersection, alright. Can do. Ignore the first. So this is the first, right? No, this is the second. Oops. Oh, got it. Okay. Oh, put the destruction sphere where you first got the glyph sphere. Oh, it was the next one. Alright, now we gotta time this. Got it. This is where we first got our glyph sphere, right? What's going on here? Alright, that seems like it was what we wanted. Push the pedestal, ride it north of the starting point, go right at the second. Oh, wait. Ride the pedestal all the way back north. Go right at the third intersection, put the bevel sphere. Okay. Right at the third intersection to get the bevel sphere. This is the third intersection. Whew, almost fell off there. Almost passed away. Okay. Insert the bevel sphere into the pedestal. Insert sphere. Alright, this pedestal back north and turn right at the first intersection. Okay. Okay. We got this. So this isn't the first intersection. We learned that last time. This is the starting point. This is the first intersection. Gotta push it south to go to the new area. Ah, secret area. Very cool. Secret, secret. I got a secret. Alright. This is the first time ever in this game that I've actually gotten all the secrets. I usually just don't care enough, but... HP sphere, sweet! There's a shining panel on the floor. Step on it to make a pedestal appear near you. Take one of these. Put it in here for Marxism. For all that is good in the world. Now push this over here. Alright, a knight's lance. That's cool. Can probably equip Kimari with that, huh? Let's see here. Knight's lance. Oh yeah, and it's awesome. Alright, we're giving Kimari that for sure. Go back and up the stairs to the right. What's that mean? Is that over here? Alright, we did it, folks. The Cloister of Trials. Round of applause for us. I'll get back to answering chat questions after this scene. Oh, they're breaking the religious taboo to save their friend. They're not supposed to do this, but they are to save Yuna. Even Kimari, the one who never breaks the rules. They're going against the religious teachings of the temple. Ah! Even my brother's not a communist, not denying the data I brought up. Now he's convinced that homelessness and unemployment were not a reality in the USSR. Wow. Can't refute the facts, right? It's one of the good things about having the data on hand, I guess.
The dead should be allowed to rest.
Let me quick just turn this up so we can hear. Oh, you gotta go to sleep, Jacob? Alright, see ya. Thank you for being here. Get some good rest, comrade. You need rest. You need your sleep, buddy. What's up, Zero Deca? Welcome to the gaming stream. Have you watched?
Don't come out!
There's the last of them. You are to stand trial.
I expect it will be a fair trial.
Of course it will.
I ain't scared of you, Keenock. Ooh, we got Bahamut. Alright, what should we name him? What should we name our boy? We got Gromsky, Sankara. I think he could just be Ingalls. I don't know if he's the last Aeon you get, but he's one of them. The last one will obviously be Marx. Friedrich Engels. And save our game. Do it again for good measure. And there we go.
The High Court of Yevon is now in session.
The High Court of Yevon. Oh, do we finally get to beat up Keenock? Good, I hate this guy.
The officers of this court seek nothing but absolute truth in Yevon's name.
Oh, we actually go to court? I forgot about
Those on
this.
trial believe in Yevon and speak only the truth.
Maester Kelk Ronso.
We get to see what the justice system is like in this story, this universe.
You swore to protect the people of Yevon. True?
Yes.
Then consider. You have inflicted dire injury
Seymour.
upon Master Seymour Water. Conspired with the Albed and joined in their insurrection. These
Heck
are
yeah, we
traitorous
joined the
and
insurrection.
unforgivable crimes that
It's called the
disturb
Revolution,
order
Kelk.
of Yevon.
Revolution.
Tell this court what possessed you to participate in such violence.
No more theocracy.
Your Grace.
Classic double save. I always double save,
The
dude.
real
Always.
traitor
I
is
always
Maester
get scared
Seymour.
that it didn't save right.
He killed his father Jiskel with his own hands.
What is this?
Hadn't you heard?
Not only that, Maester Seymour is already dead.
What?
It is a summoner's sacred duty to send the souls of the departed to the far plane.
They're making a good case for themselves
Yuna was
right
only
now.
doing her job as a summoner.
I bet this is a kangaroo court like the ICC, though.
Grand Maester Micah, please send Seymour now.
Send the unsent to where they belong?
Yes. Maester?
I have not watched Oppenheimer yet, by the way, but I plan to, and we want to do a Marxist movie review of it. Huh? He's not real either?
You would have to send me too.
Huh?
What?
They're all dead?
Grand Maester Micah is a wise leader. Even in death, he is invaluable to Spira.
Enlightened rule by the dead is preferable to the misguided failures of the living.
Life is but a passing dream, but the death that follows is eternal.
Men die, beasts die, trees die, even continents perish.
True, everything dies. Dialectics.
Only the power of death truly commands in spirit. Resisting its power is futile.
But what of sin? I am a summoner, my lord, like my father before me. I am on a pilgrimage to stop the death that sin brings.
So much commentary
Are you telling me that too is futile?
about religion being used to control people in a society.
Grand
Especially a
Maester
theocratic
Micah,
society like
I
this
am
one.
not alone.
The priests are literally the judges of the
Who have
court.
opposed sin. Their battles, their sacrifices, were they all in vain?
Not in vain. No matter how many summoners give their lives, sin cannot be truly defeated.
Oppenheimer talks about Red Scare and anti-communist fervor. Yeah, we talked about that on the stream yesterday, how Oppenheimer got caught up in the Red Scare,
People hope.
even though he wasn't a communist.
There is nothing futile in the life and death of a summoner.
Never futile, but never ending.
Indeed, that is the essence of Yevon.
This is such an interesting scene, I feel like.
Yevon is embodied by eternal, unchanging continuity, Summoner.
No. That can't be right.
Everything changes.
Those who question these truths, they are traitors.
So if you question that things are unchanging, that Yevon rules all, you're considered a traitor in this theocracy. When that's an undialectical way to think.
Get me out of here! I want out!
Everything changes. Everything's in constant
You hear
flux.
me?
This reminds me
He
of
was
Final
your
Fantasy
brother.
12 when you find Bosch. He's locked in a cage just like this. It's a pretty great movie. I've heard it's good. I'm excited to watch it and do a Marxist movie review.
Yuna's okay.
Do you believe that socialism or a proper democracy can be achieved in the U.S. by our children's lifetimes? Yes.
She'll
I'll get
make
more
it.
into it after this. Sorry, this is a long cutscene.
What? So she can die? Why is it everything in Spira seems to revolve around people dying?
The spiral of death.
Huh?
Summoners challenge the bringer of death, sin, and die doing so.
The spiral of death.
Guardians give their lives to protect their summoner. The faith are the souls of the dead. Even the maesters of Yevon are unsent. Spira is full of death.
Full of death.
Only
Just like
sin
life.
is reborn, and then only to bring more death.
More death.
It is a cycle of death, spiraling endlessly.
Not good. Not good at all. Man, I'm gathering a group to establish a communist collective here in Brazil because I don't agree with the methods of the communists and the left in general. Dealing with the working class is pretty bad, actually. Huh, could you say more about that? Because obviously we have critiques of the American left, but it'd be really interesting to hear about the Brazilian left.
You would.
Is it the same type of thing as the U.S. left, where they're hyper-focused on social issues, or where they're focused on movementism, like recruiting activists and students rather than
Looks like you're
working
next.
class people? That's a huge problem in the U.S. I'd love to hear more about that. This is how they're executing us, pushing us in the water?
Get going. Where's everybody else? Floating down there somewhere, maybe.
This seems like a weird way to execute people. So Oppenheimer's a good movie, so I should do a Marxist movie review of it. I'm down.
Ooh, you made it.
I'm so very down. High five.
What's our sentence?
Think they expect us to give up and die down here.
Oh, well, that's a lame way to kill someone.
Right?
Where's Uni?
I don't know.
Wonder if we should wait for her.
Let's wait at the exit.
If there is an exit.
Most prisons don't have an exit. Yes, I would love to watch that. All right, I'll do it.
How fares the ransom, Mason?
I love doing the movie reviews. It's one of my favorite
It seems my
kinds of
father's
content to
murder
make.
troubles him.
Ever the ransom. Hard-headed, hardly useful.
However, the summoner Yuna, daughter to High Summoner Braska, she may be of some use to us alive.
She has disturbed the order of Yevon. She cannot be allowed to live.
I understand.
Let it go, Seymour.
Let it go.
No one thrown into the Via Purifico has ever survived.
The Via Purifico.
Yet there is always a small chance that they might. Place guards at the exit. Kill any who emerge.
Sir, leave that to me.
First your father, now your bride.
Allow me to do this because she is my bride.
You killed your dad and your
I'll
wife.
go too.
Yeah,
You do
bring
not
it,
trust
Keenock.
me?
I want to fight your tubby butt.
Would you trust a man who murdered his father?
Huh.
Very well. As you wish.
Very well. As you wish. We either here and in the U.S.,
Forgive me.
too far as I can see, tend to treat matters in a form that blames a large part of the working class and treat of subjects that places them in some sort of the bad guys, or at least in a way that makes them feel like they're the problem, and that makes them embrace even tighter the right and sometimes fascism sometimes. Yeah, that sounds very similar to the U.S., and it's interesting because Bolsonaro is a similar figure to Trump, right? He captured a lot of working class support through his racist or fascistic rhetoric. But, you know, that doesn't mean the working class are just a basket of deplorables like what Hillary Clinton called them, right? They're just not being offered the alternative. They're not being offered socialism. I mean, in the last Brazilian election before Lula won the recent one, Lula was literally put in jail, you know, by Judge Sergio Moro, who was then appointed to a high-standing position in the Bolsonaro administration. So, like, the left wing, the working class, the socialist candidate was in jail. You know, so working people didn't really have an alternative. So they drifted towards proto-fascism and Bolsonaro, but yeah, that's not enough. That's not reason to dismiss the working class and call them evil. That's more of a reason to go to them and win them to socialism, win them to their own self-interest, because the truth is on our side. So that's cool that you're trying to do your own thing, or that you're critiquing the Brazilian left. Sounds like it's much needed. So before Lula, we had a coup against Dilma. Before that, too, by the CIA, actually. Yeah, right. So all the socialist candidates had been ousted or thrown in jail. Like, we even have data proving that. I've read about that. VJ has talked about that. Prashad. Huh? What is this? Oh, we're Yuna now? This is interesting. Yeah, what do you think are the chances, like, is the sentiment in Brazil moving towards socialism or moving towards the working class and away from Bolsonaro? I know Bolsonaro, like, fled to Miami, but what kind of feel do you get? Do you feel like people are still really leaning far right, or does Lula have broad support among the working masses, or are they critical of him, or do they see him as their best option? Just saved again. I'd love to hear more about Brazil. We recently did our podcast about Peru with our buddy Sebastian, but save your game. Take the path to the right. The end, go to the left. Okay. Right. Can probably speed this up, huh? Oh, we run into monsters in here? Interesting. Help me, Ingalls. It's a cool intro. Holy crap. Forgot how big Bahamut is. Overkill. Overkill. Alright. Is that Kimari?
Yuna, sorry we left you alone.
No,
It's all good. Kimari? Alright, now we have Kimari in our party too. Cool. It's better. Also got a mega potion. Alright, back to the save sphere. Cure myself. That did nothing, alright. We're gonna have to use another summon. Screw this. Help us out, Ingalls. Help your boys out. Oops, sorry guys. I don't think treating the wannabe tough uncle who lives in the corner, feel like he's a piece of shit works. Exactly, right. And you have, like, as a Marxist, we need to look at the material conditions that push people into a point where they were going to support Bolsonaro, you know, rather than support a socialist who backed their own interests. Like, Marxists aren't supposed to blame individuals for stuff like that, you know, or break it all down to, oh, it's just these people are a basket of deplorables or whatever, you know. We're supposed to look at the systemic reasons for things and the way that people's material conditions create their social consciousness and their reality, right? So if you just hyper focus on individuals and call them bad people or whatever, you're missing the whole point. We got a lot of uncles like this, you know. Totally. We got a lot of, you know, I have MAGA people in my family. And I don't dismiss them as a basket of deplorables. I talk to them about socialism. I try and reach them where they're at. I tell them that the American empire and American capitalism is crumbling because of its internal contradictions. And what we need is a socialist state and a socialist economy that alleviates these contradictions and makes life better for the working masses. Gets people like Joe Biden out of power who are sending all our tax dollars to, you know, ridiculous wars abroad and corporate bailouts. So, alright, I gotta see which direction to go next here. And they have children and families, of course, right? They're just regular working people. You know, unless they're like actual violent fascists, which the vast majority of Trump supporters aren't, and I assume the vast majority of Bolsonaro supporters aren't either. Although those, you know, sections do exist, there are far-right extremist militias, and I'm not saying to talk to them or to give them the benefit of the doubt, but, you know, the regular working class people tricked into voting Trump or tricked into voting Bolsonaro, we gotta reach those people. Take the path to the left. Make a left turn at the end. Alright. Lefting. Leftaroo. No magic yet. I might just have to summon again. Oh, nice. No, I don't. Apparently you can crush those things with fire. Alright, an elixir. Alright. Grab me a elixir, proceed to the next room up north, and look to the right. Here? Or up here? We're gonna have to summon again. I just don't know what else to do. Otherwise it's gonna take too long to fight these things. Got him. Got him. What are we getting here? The shell ability. About time. Been waiting on that. I don't know if this was right. Shoot, that's way too fast. Well, maybe I was going the right way. The left in Brazil has been disappointing because the most important communist party here, PCB, recently expelled its director because he wasn't willing to blindly support Lula, which is what the party has become. Lula's not a communist, not even close to that, and they're supporting him out of interest in the process. They also expelled their biggest representative among the youth, pretty big influence, because they didn't want the party to become a Lula thing. Interesting. I mean, I do see the importance in supporting Lula, you know, even though he's not a communist and even though he's not the ideal candidate, because if you, they're going through a similar thing in Venezuela right now. If you bash Lula from within the country, the imperialists are going to use that against Lula. They just are, if they try a coup or something like that. So they can use it to spread anti-socialist propaganda. So I get the need to have party unity in that sense and support Lula, but I also get how you as a Brazilian wouldn't appreciate the lack of criticism, you know, especially from the Communist Party. I think it should be the Communist Party in Venezuela, the Communist Party in Brazil. They should be like, yeah, we support these candidates, you know, we support these socialist candidates. They're better than the imperialists. But here's our critiques as communists, right? Like, here's what we would like them to do better. And I don't know. I pretty much disagree with what the Communist Party of Venezuela is doing right now with the way that they're almost condemning the the Maduro government and going along with a lot of the same talking points from the State Department, who's consistently trying to sanction Venezuela, coup Venezuela, destroy the Bolivarian experiment in Venezuela. So the party is cracking because of it, and that's a weakening we do not need. Yeah, for sure. It's hard, though, when you gotta... It's hard to walk the line, you know, in those difficult positions. And, you know, ultimately what needs to be avoided is like a split, like a cracking of the party, like you said. People need to... Because, like, was there a party vote that was held on it? Because what they should do is just vote and then have everyone adhere to democratic centralism, you know. But they were supportive to Lula, but they were criticizing too. Yeah, that makes sense. What sucks is that there's, like you said, that the party's being harmed by it, because that's what you want to avoid, obviously. Orin. I thought I was gonna find Lulu here, but
there must be an exit somewhere. We search.
Maybe I should just stop using the guide and start just looking around. Lula has been supporting the current Italian far-right fascist for president by example. How so? By saying that he would trade with them or by endorsing them? Because there's, you know, like China, a lot of people say that China supports Duterte in the Philippines. but it's just that China has a policy of complete non-interventionism, right? So there's like a Maoist insurgency, guerrilla war group in the Philippines. But China, because they, have this policy of what they call complete non-interventionism, because China doesn't get involved in other countries' politics, they still trade with the Duterte government and the government in power, and they, treat it like they would treat any sovereign state, any state of any country. And a lot of people say, well, why doesn't China support the communists here? Why don't they support the Maoists? It's like, because then that would destroy relations with the Philippines, because they're dumping money into a rebel group in the Philippines and getting politically involved. And, the reason they don't do that is because they don't want to create global hostilities. They don't want to aid imperialism. They don't want to give imperialism another reason to target them. They see that as one of the mistakes that the Soviet Union made. That was basically just the base of support for any revolutionary group or movement all around the world. China says, we don't do that, we trade with any existing sovereign states. So I don't think that's really them supporting Duterte over the Maoists. That's just them trading with the elected government of that country, engaging in, foreign relations and foreign trade. And they're still doing it in a way that benefits the people of the Philippines. They're not doing it the way that the U.S. and the IMF and the World Bank and all these ghouls do it. So it's a complicated issue, though, for sure. Like, extremely complicated. So oops. Do you think China taking Tibet is imperialism? Absolutely not. No. Tibet was a feudal monarchy. And I get into arguments about this with my buddy, because he's a Marxist-Leninist, but he's a Tibetan Buddhist. So when it comes to Tibet, he's just got this major blind spot where he kind of buys into the religious propaganda. But, I mean, the Dalai Lama was a CIA asset. The CIA backed and funded him. And, prior to the Communist Party coming, he was basically the feudal landlord. He lived in this big mansion while preaching, enlightenment through detachment from material things. You don't need material things to become enlightened. You have to completely detach from that and become a higher self, or a higher being than that. Yet he's living in a mansion, and he has tons of peasants and slaves who he'll cut the hands off of or gouge the eyes out of if they disobeyed him. So there were all these terrible practices in Tibet that was dominated by the Dalai Lama. And think about, like, Buddhism as a religion. Like, what a great thing to tell all the peasants who are working under you, or the slaves who are working under you who have nothing, to find enlightenment, to be happy. You just need to accept the fact that you have no material possessions, right? You need to learn to be happy without any commodities or any material possessions. That's a great thing to tell people who are really poor, who are your slaves, right? Oh, don't complain about being my slave. You have enlightenment, you don't need any material possessions. Just keep working in the fields and you'll reach enlightenment, said the Dalai Lama from his mansion. But yeah, when people say free Tibet, the way you should respond is Mao already did. I think not engaging in arms deals with the Duterte regime should be an easy bar to clear, though. Likewise with Israel. Yeah, I agree, but I understand that their policy is complete non-interventionism. Complete non-interventionism. Complete, right? So there's no... China does not try and influence the politics of these countries, and if they did, the U.S. and all their allies would be able to say, this is Chinese social imperialism. This is China acting as an imperialist power. This is China, selectively picking and choosing who they'll trade with based on the politics and the ideology of that country. And that would be bad for China rhetorically. It would be bad for China. A lot of countries would also probably cut off trade with China, including the U.S. Like, this is kind of what China needed to do, especially when the USSR collapsed, in order to survive. Right? Say, we're just going to trade with everyone and build ourselves up economically and support other countries with trade, but not influence their politics. So if you look at the historical development of socialist experiments and the historical development of socialist foreign policy, it makes sense that China came to the position that they came to this position of complete non-interventionism. And yeah, in a perfect world, I would love for them to not trade with Israel. I would love for them to not, sell weapons to Duterte. I would love for that, but that's not what their policy is based on, and I understand why they have the policy that they do. So, yeah. It's another interesting conversation, though. Yeah, I would love for China to be funding the CPUSA right now. I'd love for China to do all sorts of stuff. But I understand why China doesn't do stuff like that. I think I got to get Lulu still. She's got to be back here somewhere. Where are you, Lulu? Alright, hopefully Oren can reach these guys. Nice. Not restricting private trade, sure, that's one thing, but it's a different when some of these deals also come from the state. Is it though? How is it a different thing? Right? If they say we have a policy of complete non-interventionism, but we're gonna not trade with your state, we're not gonna trade with institutions that are nationalized, that are owned by the government, which as socialists we should view as a good thing. Right, when states nationalize certain industries to take care of them using central planning. If China said we're not going to trade with state industries because we disagree with your state, with your government, with your politics, then they don't have a trade policy of complete non-interventionism. That is, interventionism. That's China getting involved in the politics, meddling in the politics, saying, do what we see fit or we're not going to trade with you anymore. There's Lulu.
It's okay.
So, if they start getting selective and say we're only going to trade with your private businesses and not your state, which would be a very, very strange policy for a socialist country to take, right? We're not going to trade with your industries that are nationalized, only your private corporations that are, that as Marxists we know are controlling the state. The corporations, the capitalists who control production are ultimately in charge of the government, ultimately use the state as a tool of suppression. It'd be a very strange policy for them to take, and it would involve them meddling in other countries' politics, right? That would be a way of influencing the way that these countries govern themselves, which is China's trade policy is based on not doing that. And if they did do that, again, like the U.S. media would lambast them even worse and would be all over it, talking about China supporting these insurgent rebel groups, these separatist groups. This is why we need to support the ETIM and these separatist groups in China. And the U.S. already does that anyway, so you could make the argument that screw it, the U.S. is going to do that regardless. You might as well support revolutionary movements, but, that's not what China does, and there's a reason that China does what they do. I feel like we end up talking about this every freaking stream, like China's foreign policy. He, for example, stood up with her against Italian movements that demand equal rights for the LGBTQ community. That's not good. Dalai Lama's full of shit, yes. Do you think Russia and Afghanistan was imperialism or colonial? No. The way that the U.S. made that, you could say, it was definitely more than what China would do, right? They were definitely influencing the politics of Afghanistan, but, they were trying to keep in power this Marxist democratic government that was doing all these things like teaching literacy, teaching people to read through literacy campaigns, meeting people's needs, building hospitals, the things that Marxist governments do. And, I don't know if they had mass support or not at the time, but the Soviet Union came in and helped them and tried to stabilize them against these extremist U.S.-backed groups like Osama bin Laden's Mujahideen, who were in Pakistan and bordering countries and would come over the border and massacre literacy workers. They would massacre the people leading the literacy campaigns trying to teach others to read. Right? And the U.S. funneled so many weapons and so many guns into groups like the Mujahideen, which has had, impacts to this day. Groups like the ETIM that we just mentioned earlier and others splintered off of the Mujahideen, the Al-Qaeda as well. So the U.S. has flooded the region with guns and made extremism, or greatly exacerbated the problem of extremism and terrorist violence. So that's what the USSR was trying to stabilize and trying to help this Marxist democratic government fight off, which ultimately they were unsuccessful. But, there are like quotes that from Afghani scholars, even some who were there at the time, saying, the Soviet Union was trying to build hospitals, they were trying to build schools, they were trying to create stability, whether you agreed with it or not, or whether you thought they should have been there or not. Whereas the U.S. was there to cause destruction. The U.S. was there to destabilize the region so Western multinationals could pillage Afghanistan. So, you could disagree with the Soviet Union being there. You could say they were trying to influence the politics there, that Soviet social imperialism. But ultimately what they were, they were countering the U.S., and what they were doing was completely different than what the U.S. was doing, right? The Soviets were trying to bring construction. The U.S. was trying to bring destruction. I support the Soviet Union going there and trying to help. Like, the extremist groups and the terror groups that the U.S. was backing were just horrible, and the Soviet people needed help trying to stabilize themselves and trying to launch these literacy campaigns and prevent their freaking literacy workers from being massacred. So, I personally, as a socialist, as a communist, as a revolutionary, I do prefer the Soviet Union's foreign policy to China's, right? Like, if there's a fascist government, fascist takeover happening in Hungary or Finland or whatever, we're going to go in and try and put a stop to it, right? We're going to back socialist movements and revolutionary movements around the world. They were heavily funded and supported CPUSA in the U.S., right? I prefer that revolutionary foreign policy to China's policy of complete non-interventionism. Right? I just recognize why China does what they do, and it's not, I'm not going to condemn them for it or attack them for it. I'm more going to, oops, just gave that thing health. I'm just going to explain why they do what they do and kind of leave it at that, and support them ultimately. Because, in the end, their foreign policy is still acting anti-imperialist, right? It's still helping to advance the productive forces in countries in Africa and elsewhere, where the U.S. and the IMF, World Bank imperialists have prevented the productive forces from developing for years. So in that way, China is influencing those countries politically by helping them industrialize and gain power and self-sufficiency, which is, economic self-sufficiency is needed for independence and sovereignty. And they're creating the BRICS alliance, this multipolar world allied, or with all these countries allied against the U.S. So they are influencing politics. They're just playing the long game, whereas the Soviets were playing the short game. Let's back the revolutions.
His guardians. I don't see them.
Maroda and Passe are not here. I will do this unhappy deed myself. Forgive me, Lady Yuna.
Oh, we gotta fight this guy? I kind of missed what happened. How'd he turn into a bad guy? Whatever, I'm gonna whoop him. Yeah, I agree. I would still describe China as the greatest bastion for communism in the modern world, but I could also never fault CPP revolutionaries engaged in real armed struggle against the domestic fascism for their disdain of the CPC. Exactly, right, yeah. Yeah. You don't need, I see why they would have that opinion. And I think it's still slightly ultra, but yeah. It's a good way to put it. And maybe China turns at some point, right? Maybe as the U.S. empire is crumbling or getting more aggressive, or whatever, China says, all right, now we're going to start supporting socialist movements, revolutionary movements around the world, because capitalism is just completely devolved into violent fascism and extremism. So, we need to support socialism globally to defeat the dying capitalist empire. I imagine that's a long, long ways down the road if it happens, but maybe we get there at some point, China's foreign policy doesn't have to say the same. Dialectics tell us that everything's in constant change and flux, and things often become their opposites through development. So, who knows? Who knows? I hope so. That'd be so awesome if China just came out one day and was like, yeah, we're not trading with Israel anymore. They're massacring the Palestinians. Screw them. We're not helping them out anymore. I would love that. How does this thing have so much health? There we go. I think some people can feel hypocritical, like only the West can do. People can feel hypocrite. Only the West can do imperialism and colonizing. I mean, that's just the reality right now. The reality is China and even Russia aren't acting as imperialist powers. They're not exporting capital or overthrowing countries and overthrowing their sovereignty in order to pillage them of resources. Right? The Soviet Union's involvement in Ukraine has to do with their own national security and combating the U.S. sphere of influence and the NATO sphere of influence that had marched itself right up to their borders and was, continually threatening them. At a recent NATO summit, they said that Russia and China are the main enemies of the U.S. or main targets of NATO going forward. And if you look at China's so-called debt trapping, it's basically them doing what the U.S. did with West Europe when the Marshall Plan was a thing, giving them developmental loans focused on equity, or what in Marxism we would call fixed capital, money that creates more money, so like industry, manufacturing stuff, factories, extraction industries, things like that. But the interest rates on those loans are around 4%, which is minuscule and exactly what the U.S. gave their allies in Western Europe with the Marshall Plan after World War II to build them up as trade partners and also political and economic allies on the global stage. And China's also forgiving a lot of that debt, but, to say that that's imperialism is crazy. That's actually counteracting the debt trapping and the imperialism of the IMF and the World Bank. The finance imperialism that emerged after Lenin, after World War II, when the IMF and World Bank were created in like 45 or sometime in between 1945 and 1950, the IMF and World Bank were created, and the U.S. could now control the global financial system and who gets financing and who doesn't, and they can jack up the interest rates on certain loans. So China's financing combats that, right? China, some people say China's using finance capital. Lenin in Imperialism, the highest stage of capitalism, says that finance capital is imperialism. It's like, you're not looking at the historical developments that have come about since the 1917 when Lenin wrote that book, and since Lenin died, right? We've had the emergence of this U.S.-dominated global financial system that traps countries in debt and prevents countries from developing equity, from developing their productive forces. And China is offering a counter to that, right? China is saying, okay, don't take loans with the IMF, don't take loans with the World Bank, they're going to debt trap you. Take loans from us, because every modern country in this era of finance needs financing, right, to fund production. So they need to get that financing from somewhere. China's offering them an alternative place to get the financing that won't trap them in debt and force them to adjust their politics to whatever the U.S. wants. So in this world of global finance, we need a source of socialist financing, a financing aimed at mutual development and building countries up. So just because China's using finance doesn't make them imperialism, full stop. Do what we see fit, or we're not going to trade with you sounds much more like the U.S. Exactly. Right, because then China can just hold that over these countries' heads. I recommend this con about China. China Threat or Hope, The Pragmatic Revolution by a Spanish journalist, Javier Garcia. Well, that sounds interesting. Yeah, I'll definitely check that out. Thank you, comrade. Would love to check that out. Let's go, Shiva. I meant book, not con. Sorry. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, it sounds interesting. Another piece, a short piece that I really like is Michael Hudson's Chinese Industrial Socialism versus U.S. financialization or U.S. financial capitalism or something like that. I can't think of the exact name of the book, but of the piece, but just search Michael Hudson Chinese Industrial Socialism and it'll come up. It is fantastic, and it just, very succinctly lays out the difference between China's economic system, China's foreign policy, and the U.S.'s economic system and the U.S.'s foreign policy, where China's been investing in industrialization and real productive infrastructure, right? Not financialization or the service economy, but, extraction, manufacturing, real production. Which is part of the reason the U.S. productive base can't keep up with China and Russia in this proxy war with Ukraine. But meanwhile, the U.S. has been outsourcing our jobs, right? We've been deindustrializing. We've been moving towards financialization and domination of the economy by landlords, banks, real estate capitalists, right? Sort of tech, sort of more fictitious capital, not real productive infrastructure. And then China's been helping their allies in Venezuela and Brazil and all over the world, helping them invest in the same type of stuff, especially in Africa. So these are countries where the productive forces haven't been allowed to develop for years, and now they are. And, it's creating a situation where the U.S. doesn't have the same industrial base, the same manufacturing base as China and their allies. And we're seeing this, as I said earlier, play out in Ukraine, where the U.S. is running out of weapons, NATO's running out of weapons. They're used to fighting a bunch of smaller wars all around the world, not fighting one concentrated war against a superpower, and they can't produce as many weapons as Russia and China and their allies, right? They can't keep up with the industrial manufacturing base that these countries have created. We've become financialized, dominated by a bunch of real estate capitalists and bankers, like I said. And we no longer have the ability to keep up in terms of manufacturing with the rest of the world. So that's largely what China's foreign policy has done. And, there are certain areas, like specific areas where you can criticize it, like them, selling weapons to Duterte, but you have to look at what the long-term goal, what China has done in the long term, and what they've done to counter imperialism in the U.S. in the long term. And that helps explain some of their things that seem like they're anti-communist or anti-socialist in the short term. China debt relief to African nations. Thumbs up. Yes. They've just written off $4 billion recently, too. Yep. So there is a little bit of debt accruing, but China keeps forgiving it. And there was one country that had an economic collapse a while back, and everyone blamed Chinese debt trapping. And Ben Norton did a piece. It turned out 90% of the country's loans or debt was with the U.S. or U.S. banks. So it's all projection when the U.S. accuses China of debt trapping. They know that's what we're doing, or influencing other countries' politics and influencing the politics in Africa. They know that's what we're doing, so they try and project it onto China. And get young progressives or young socialists or young anti-imperialists or Kurt Metzger, the comedian on the Jimmy Dore show, to just see China as a new U.S., a new empire, just as bad as us, and they need to be taken out. Kurt Metzger of the Jimmy Dore show doesn't want regime change in China, but he's always talking about Chinese imperialism, and because he's aware of U.S. imperialism, right? So it's an easy propaganda point for the U.S. to then say, they're just doing the same thing. China's just doing the same thing that we are. It's all imperialism. This might be a good place to end the stream, actually. Thank you for the recommendation. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Vast majority of African nations' debt is from ruinous private financing. Absolutely. The Soviet Union for some time banned alcohol. Is this better from a Marxism perspective? I don't think so. From my understanding, I'm going to keep playing for a little bit longer because I'm having fun interacting with the chat. We got a bunch of people in here right now, so y'all get a little extra stream today. Actually, what time is it? Almost 1? All right, we got time. What was I talking about? Oh, yeah, I heard it was banned at the time of World War II, right? Because you had people drinking or whatever, and the party and the country needed to focus on industrialization. They couldn't have people slacking off or drinking at the time because it was such an important time in the country's history. You know, it was vital for them to come together and get ready to defeat the Yahtzees. Oh, dang it, what the heck, Smith? I just did that twice in a row. So I heard it was more about that than it was about, you know, banning alcohol because that's what Marx wanted or whatever. Addiction is definitely a problem in under capitalism, and people definitely turn to alcohol and drugs to escape alienation and things like that, but I don't think we would need to ban drinking under socialism, you know. Maybe. If people vote on it, if people just want to take their own alcohol away. I think that'd be really, really hard to sell the American workers on, like, especially here in the Midwest. Like, I just can't see any of my friends getting down with the idea of getting rid of alcohol. Like, they're just all a bunch of drunks. Not really, but I mean, we should just set up more rehabilitation facilities. Like, one of the most disgusting things I learned while studying the opioid crisis is that rehab has been commodified. So a lot of the same people, same shareholders who are making tons of money selling you opioids are also making money then on selling people rehab. It's basically become like a luxury thing that only rich people can afford, rich drug addicts can afford, which is really sad, especially given the state of addiction in our country and the opioid crisis and how bad things have gotten. The fact that they're then profiting off opioid treatment is just like, this is sick. You people are sick. How do you sleep at night, Sackler family? Like, how? It truly doesn't make sense to me. How you could be that evil. How you could lie so many people into opioid addiction and influence the medical system so greatly to promote opioids, and then just be like, oh, we should profit on the back end. We should profit off opioid treatment too. Like, how evil can you be? How actually evil can you be as a person? I know Marxism isn't about morality, you know, it's about dialectics and materialism and class struggle, but, you know, at a certain point, some people are just freaking evil, man. And the Sackler family are a fantastic example of that. Oh, thank you for posting the link in the chat. Yeah, there's the Michael Hudson piece about industrial socialism in China. Please, please, please check that out if you want to learn about China and not make mistakes. Yeah, when it comes to your analysis of China, and understand what they're doing, understand how what they're doing differs from what the U.S. is doing, and understand how China's playing the long game. That's a great short article to check out. And thank you for being a Twitch subscriber also. Appreciate that. Appreciate all our Twitch subscribers. I know Twitch isn't our most popular or isn't the, you know, we don't have the most followers on Twitch compared to our other platforms, but I'm trying to do more of these gaming streams, which are exclusive to Twitch and the Eddie Liger Smith YouTube. I'm trying to build that Twitch community, that Twitch audience here, so I really appreciate you guys for being on Twitch and subscribing. Thank you. No, thank you. Just gonna get into a thank off. Thank all my viewers, everybody who's in the chat today, for hanging out and being the best. Socialism is on the horizon. We will achieve socialism in our lifetime. Someone was asking about that earlier. I definitely think it's possible. Right there, before the revolution happened in Russia, or the years before, nobody thought a revolution was coming. Nobody thought it was possible. Right? But as Lenin said, there are decades where weeks happen and weeks where decades happen. You know, all of a sudden things start to move really quickly and you end up in a revolutionary situation. I mean, we even saw spontaneous mass uprisings with the George Floyd protests and stuff. It just wasn't organized enough, or organized in a socialist manner, but we could be on the brink of something for real. Why is there a save sphere like 5 minutes away from the other save sphere? What is that? Very strange. I assume we're going to get a boss fight here. What is your take on the Uyghur in China? Can we trust some of the things from Western media on that? Very, 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 very little. Almost everything Western media publishes about the Uyghurs, and they've stopped publishing so much stuff about it because people have kind of realized how BS it is in a lot of ways. But almost everything they publish about the Uyghurs is from Adrian Zenz, this extremist Christian far-right fundamentalist who literally says that he's on a mission from God to destroy China. That's what this guy literally believes and says. So we've done tons of videos about the Uyghurs, especially our videos responding to Daniel Dumbrill. Yes, watch our videos responding to Daniel Dumbrill, who lives in Shenzhen, China, and has done so much great work debunking the Uyghur genocide narrative. It's just a way for the U.S. to demonize China. There are real things going on, like in Xinjiang, there were a bunch of extremist attacks, like one in Urumqi that killed like 150 people. This is in western China in the Xinjiang region, and a lot of it happened because the U.S. has been supporting the East Turkestan Islamic movement, this extremist terrorist group that splintered from the Mujahideen in Afghanistan that we were talking about earlier when the U.S. was dumping money into them. It either splintered or it has some association to the Mujahideen. But anyways, extremist group made mostly of Uyghur Muslims in Xinjiang, who they do not have the majority of support. They're also a separatist group who wants to leave China, leave the PRC. And in 2014 or so, the U.S. took them off the list of terrorist groups, of recognized terrorist groups, so that they could start supporting them, and so that the ETIM could start recruiting new members, so the U.S. can support separatism in China. So after multiple terror attacks by Uyghur extremists like the ETIM, China started cracking down and started these re-education programs to talk people out of extremism, make people not extremists. And that is what the U.S. is labeling as a genocide, right? So China takes steps to prevent the extremism and separatism that the U.S. is promoting, and the U.S. goes, hey, you're genociding these people. It's so stupid, but yeah. Okay. Do a zombie status. Any curative magic or items will damage him. Just use 2 Phoenix Downs. What the heck? How's that work? Is this real? How much damage did that do? Oh man. So if he has zombie, we can just hit him with Phoenix Downs and he'll die? What the heck? That was awesome. Alright, I did not expect that fight to be that easy. That was like a little trick. Just throw 2 Phoenix Downs at him and he'll die. Fantastic. Fantastic. Man, I might have to take a rest day for working out. My body is just beat up. I've been going ham lately, folks. Absolutely ham. I'm doing 2-a-days wrestling and lifting hard. Lifting so hard. Now my abs are sore, my chest is sore, my back is sore, my legs are sore. Actually, my chest isn't that bad. I might hit chest today still. Should I take a rest day, folks, or should I hit chest? I should hit chest. Why does you take... That guy is funny. Adrian Zenz is funny. God sent him to destroy China, and somehow he's the data source of a lot of people. Yeah, isn't that crazy? Somehow the Western media just started picking up his stuff. I mean, it's a good example of like how propaganda is spread, right? You have one guy, one source, one State Department of connected dude like Adrian Zenz who puts out this information, these reports about Uyghur genocide that are just extrapolated data, just basically pulled out of his ass. And then every respected mainstream media outlet, from the New York Times to the freaking Daily Mail, reports on it, pumps it out. Uyghur genocide, Uyghur genocide, Uyghur genocide. And they repeat it over and over and over again as if there's overwhelming evidence, when the evidence is really just one guy, right? It's this Adrian Zenz guy, who's not a reliable source at all. But he can go down to the ground. That's cool. Alright, y'all. I think I'm going to call it a day here. We've got a big boss fight coming up. I'll save that for the next stream. Thank you all so much for being here and talking politics with me while I play video games. Really been enjoying these streams lately, the gaming streams. We've had more people in here, more interaction. I really love it. Be sure to follow on Twitch or subscribe if you really want to support us and support the gaming streams. Yeah, I'll keep doing these, keep pumping these out. They're very fun. Twitch exclusive, like I said, or Eddie Lagersmith Gaming on YouTube. Yeah, it's just fun to have a more relaxed stream where I can just rapid fire answer your questions. And honestly, it's nice for me to have 8 viewers in the chat, 8 to 12 or 15, rather than 70 to 170, you know, just because the chat is more manageable then, and I can spend some time responding to all of your questions, really digging in deep on some of your questions and topics and areas of contention or debate. So appreciate the crap out of you all from being here. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. The deaths of 150 ends homelessness. Alright. Peace out, everyone. Solidarity forever. Once I can get to the end stream button, I'm really struggling.